Right. Good evening. So I hope you all can hear me well. Right, brilliant. So first of all, let me worship the Buddha first. We'll all say together Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato 3 times. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. So, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Buddhist Society. And it's very nice to see you, a lot of people online and quite a few people in-house as well. So the way I'm going to conduct this session is I would go for a bit of talk since we have about 1.5 hours, isn't it? So we talk maybe for about 45 minutes or so, and we'll go for half an hour meditation, and then about some time for Q&A. Is that good? Do you like? We need a long time for meditation or Q&A, so we can adjust. We'll see how it goes, because I want to share a few things. That's how I normally conduct those sort of sessions, and we talk a bit of the fundamentals and some important points before we go for the deep meditation. And I think since we are quite, I think we got some experienced meditators as well as some newcomers, so some might not have a good idea and some might have a very good idea. So so I'll just talk a bit more about my experiences, because I've been ordained only a couple of years, and I worked and I studied. I worked a few years before I became a monk, and so probably my experience would help you, and my journey towards becoming a monk would probably, and not to become a monk for you guys, but to understand a bit of insight about the teaching, the Buddha's teaching. So my story is, I'll make it very short, but the story is I became a monk about 2 years back, not even 2 years now. I worked in London for a few years once I graduated. I went to Sri Lanka a couple of years back just to look after my mom for a while, and I spent about 8-9 months with her, and then she passed away. And that time was the first. It was about, I think the pandemic started at that time, in the first wave of the pandemic. Then I didn't want to come to UK during that time, so I thought I would spend some time in a retreat. So I was looking for a place to retreat, and I found a place, and I just went for 10 days of meditation. And when I went there, after 3 or 4 days, a tall guy with long hair just appeared to the temple and said, I'm going to ordain for 3 months during this Vasa period. And I thought, that's really cool idea. And I checked with the head monk, could I ordain for a few months like him? And he said, yeah, if you want, you can try it too. And I thought, at least I'll ordain at least for a month. I'll try my best. I've practiced quite a few years. I mean, I've been to quite many different retreats in Sri Lanka as well as in England. But it was like just a few days of meditation for the whole year, like 10 days retreat or 3-4 days weekend retreats. I've never been to long-term meditation, and but I was listening to more Dhamma talks rather than sit and try to meditate. I thought basically, since my upbringing is in a Buddhist country, so we had sort of education in the Buddhist way. And like you see the churches in England, we could see loads of temples. Every village you will find a temple with the stupa, big stupa, and about 30,000 monks in Sri Lanka. So we could see wherever you go, you could see a person with ochre robe, and also the upbringing is quite we into Buddhist culture, and my parents were Buddhist. Actually, my dad was a Catholic, but my mom was Buddhist, so I've been to the church as well as the temple. But yeah, my upbringing was in Buddhist way, and so been to Sunday Dhamma school, and even you study Buddhism in the school, and you have associated with monks like personal friends. So somehow I had opportunity to become a monk, and I thought, okay, let's try this way. And since we ordained temporarily, there was no like proper. I mean, I wouldn't say proper, but there wasn't like that much of push from the monks to us to study a particular thing or vinaya or so. But we thought, okay, since we ordained for very little time, then let's practice as much as we can. So, and that is the story about myself. And the next thing is, I mean, so I started reading Tripitaka, meditation a bit, walking, sitting, and then listening to the Dhamma from the prominent monks of other prominent monks. And I mean, listen more in Sinhalese. I mean, almost everything in my own language. So I mean, the English talks are not much. I mean, you could listen on YouTube from other Western monks, but I rather listen to in Sri Lankan language, because the Sri Lankan language is more, it's subtly close to a Pali. That once you read a Pali, sometimes even you don't know Pali at all, you can understand a bit. So I say, Evam me sutaikan samyam bhagava savatyam vihirti. You know, you got some idea, so you don't need to learn Pali to understand. So you feel a bit about it, and once if you know Pali well, that's really helpful. But we start reading a lot of suttas, listening a lot of Dhamma, and practicing those suttas. I mean, get the ideas, and we dive into the suttas and found out what exactly Buddha told those normal day-to-day people. I mean, these courses are more on Buddha see a man or a woman, and it's a conversation between Buddha and the other person. So it struck really struck in me, and this conversation between Buddha and so it was like he's talking to us, and all the problems people asking were our own problems, and the instruction were very direct, and it's so you feel like the teaching is just for you, and some suttas are very close to you. Some suttas are quite deep, and basically he has spoken to normal people like farmers and merchants and kings, and so just ordinary people. So since we are ordinary people too, and so it resonates with you, isn't it? So then one day, actually, after about 2 months after my ordination, a friend of mine called me from London, and he knew that I ordained for a few months, and he just wanted to see how I was doing, and because I was just like them, and the conversation I like to share with you. Then you just want to say, "Hey, how are you doing? How is monk life?" And and the conversation went on. Like he asked all sort of questions from me. He asked me, "Okay, how do you survive? Like, do you make money?" The first thing was, "How do you survive in Sri Lanka? Are you working in Sri Lanka?" I said, "No, I am a monk, so we not take jobs." And then how do you survive? How do you get your food? I said, "The lay people provide food." and basically they provide for requisites. Your food is provided, your robes are provided, your shelter, your dwelling place is provided, and the medication is provided. So I said, so I got everything I want at the moment for my survival. And then they said, oh, you might have a very, I heard the monks get really good food. And said, yeah, but monks, we just have 2 meals, or maybe 1 meal a day, and we have to have your meal before midday, and then you'll be on 18 hours fasting, and sometimes you just relying on just 1 meal a day, and sometimes you have breakfast and lunch. And is that so? Then how about food? You get very delicious food, Sri Lankan food. Yeah, I said, but still you have to mix them all together, and you say Patisankaro Pindapatam Patiseva. Maybe before you eat, you just recite a stanza and saying that I take this food for just for survival, not for indulge my taste buds to get energy to run around or cycling or something. I mean, this idea is about this stanza is this food just for survival, just to keep my life. That we use that for to attain nibbana and nothing else. And then the next thing was the next questions are really funny. So he asked me, "Oh, how about could you watch movies and how do you spend your day?" I said, "I just meditate, reading suttas and listening to them. There's only 3 things you could do, and a bit of house chores and like stuff like cleaning and serving other monks, helping them, these sort of things, and nothing something very exciting." I said, "Oh, this could be really boring life, isn't it?" And then he asked me, "Okay, how about could you watch TV?" No. I said, "How about music?" No, no listening to music, and not singing, not cycling, not drawing, not swimming. And just keep asking me, how about can you watch Netflix? No. Could you go for swimming? No. How about playing badminton? No. How about cycling? No. Can you take your music lessons, guitar lessons? No. And could you go for dinner and dance? There's no dinner, there's no dance. And so he kept asking me loads of questions and about the sports, but everything we usually shared with them, like barbecue in summer, holidays in a nice beautiful place, nothing basically. And see, then there's like a bit of silence, and said, what's the point of having such a life? And what are you expecting from being a monk? You can't do anything, and it's really boring, isn't it? And I didn't have a good answer for that. And even I said, oh, really? Did you have to do this way for your entire life? And even when he asked that question, I didn't have any proper answer for that. So why I'm wearing a robe and shaving off my hair, and you can't basically indulge none of your senses? And of course, you can think whatever you want to think, but nobody will see that. Nobody will see what you're thinking inside your mind. But outside world, then you can't basically do anything other people your peers doing. And in fact, even we use certain words. Even we walk, we don't use that word in Sri Lanka that we say Yanawa, and Yanawa means you're going. But for monks we say Vadinawa, and it's a different word for still we walking, eating, sleeping. We use the different words than the usual usage, like colloquial usage. They say something else, and we say instead of. I mean, I don't think any English words are there to differentiate the walking and the monks walking. Monks walking is a different walking, not like your walking. I mean, lay people's walking. And monk sleeping is not a sleeping of a lay person. And so even the basic things are we use different words for monks. So that question really struck in my mind, and even I was wondering. I wanted to really answer that question myself, to sustain in the monkhood, what I'm supposed to do and what sort of what do you say, the practice I should follow. And these were the questions. I mean, even I did a lot of, I mean, I did some retreats and meditation and with different teachers, and I had some idea, but it didn't answer these particular questions. And you just go and sit for an hour or so, and sometimes you just go for 10 days retreats and you just follow monk's advice. And but when my friend asked those questions, I didn't have any good answers. Then I was wondering, so this meditation, does it give me answers? Yeah, I get some calm in my mind. I get some quite of calm feeling, free while you're doing it, and then suddenly you have to come back to normal work, and then you back in 9 to 5 job. And how do you maintain this calmness and this serene kind of mind during the normal day-to-day work, especially since I was intending to come back as a layperson. I felt really calm and cool in the monastery, but I was thinking, so what will happen when I go back to work, and will I be able to have this same peace in mind? And these were the questions that appeared in my mind. And so I was looking for answers for those questions. How you keep your mind calm, so, and how you have the internal peace and the continuous peace, and the just, I mean, rather than attaining nibbana was a very higher goal, but to keep your mind in peace and in calmness, and not running around for desires. That was the challenge. So then I started, I was reading the suttas, but I was listening to a particular monks who are very senior monks, and they are giving Dhamma talks and sometimes on weekends. So we were so fortunate to listen to them as well. I was particularly following a few monks, and one day, one of the senior monks I was listening to, he was talking about one of the suttas. I'm going to share that sutta, so I will just let me get that sutta. It's called the Dvaitanupassana sutta. It's a very long Dvaitanupassana.
Sorry?
Dvaitanupassana. Dvaitanu. It's like a duality. Yeah. Dvaitanupassana. It's a quite long discourse. It might take maybe the whole hour to talk the sutta. But yeah, it's a quite long sutta.
Which Nikaya?
It is in, let me have a look. I think it's Khuddaka Nikaya. I can't get the reference, but the other suttas I'm going to refer is more from Samyutta Nikaya. But this particular sutta, I think, in Khuddaka Nikaya. It's a very interesting thing that I will read just a couple of stanzas that give me a very different understanding, a very different vision. The stanza says, Rupa, Saddha, Rasa, Gandha. I'll just read the Pali just to get the reference. I know that many of you won't understand, but I'll give the translation as well. Rupa, Saddha, Rasa, Gandha, Passa, Dhamma, Cha, Kevala. Ittakanta Manapacha Yavachati Vuchati. Sadeva Kassa Lokassa Etevo Sukha Sammata Yatta Cheto Nirujjanti Tante Sandukha Sammata. Yampare Sukato Ahu Tadariya Ahu Dukkato Yampare Dukkato Ahu Tadariya Sukato Vidu. The translation is: sights, sounds, taste, smells, touches, and thoughts, a lot of them. They are likable, desirable, and pleasurable as long as you can say that they exist. For all the world with its goals, this is what they agree is happiness. and where they cease is agreed on as suffering for them. What others says is happiness, the noble one says is suffering. What others says is suffering, the noble one knows as happiness. So, I mean, everybody's experience more or less like mine, isn't it? It's like we all have the same, you have your own desires and likes and dislikes, and everybody. So my like something I like to what do you call I like to experience is something completely different to you, but you have your own desires, and you might like baking cakes or gardening, and all of us have very different likes. Like you think this particular thing make me very happy. It could be a sight, it could be a sound, it could be music, the places you like to go, the movies you like to watch, and they are very different person to person. And the movies you like may be sci-fi, and the movies you like is more probably love stories or romantic. Yeah, and so everybody's tastes are different, isn't it? It's like you can't find, even you live in the same livelihood, you live in the same house, even you are twins, and so your expectations, your desires, the things you like to see, the sights and the sounds and the music and everything. Someone like rock music and someone like R&B. So your tastes are completely different. And then we say sight, sound, taste, smell, touches, and thoughts. A lot of them. They are likable, desirable, and pleasurable as long as you can say that they exist. But the whole world with its goals. This is what they agree is happiness. So that is why you call happiness. And it's something desirable. When you have it, you feel happy. The person you like to see, maybe your girlfriend, the music you like to listen, the food you like to eat. You have, all of you have any different tastes. Some like spicy food, some like not really spicy at all, some like more sweet, some like more sour taste. So, and the Buddha says, yeah, Buddha even say that people normally think sight, sound, taste, smell, touches, and thoughts are likable, desirable, and pleasurable as long as you can say that they exist. And then he says, for all the world with its goals, this is what they agree is happiness, and where they cease is agreed on as suffering for them. So we all understand that bit, isn't it? Like something is not coming to the way you want is suffering, isn't it? If you can't eat your favorite pizza on your way back, so you will be, nah, maybe your pizza, the restaurant is closed by the time you go home, and you feel sad. I miss my pizza because of I went for a meditation and the monk was talking a bit longer than expected, and I miss my pizza. And maybe, oh, I could have watched Netflix. I've just wasted my 1.5 hours, right? So that's a waste of time. This monk talking nonsense, and like so. If you don't get the things the way you want, and everything like through your six senses, and you feel very uncomfortable, you feel sad, and so that is what everybody thinks. All these millions of people, it doesn't matter which continent you're from, which country you're from, doesn't matter you're from Europe or Asia or Africa or Middle East, everybody's mind works this way. We like something, that particular thing, not everything. No, you won't like the same food like I like. We go to the same restaurant and you order fish and chips and I order something else, isn't it? And if you go to watch a movie, you like that movie, your husband or your partner wouldn't like it. It happened to me once actually. Even I was thinking, really, what happened on that I was a layperson, um, and I used to watch a lot of movies, especially during the Oscar time. I think January, February, they show all these movies which are nominated for the Oscar. And I went with a friend of mine to watch, I can't remember which year, maybe 10, 15 years back. And the movie was Martin Luther King Jr. Very inspirational movie. It was about the Black Revolution, and the movie was also black and white too. And I went with a friend of mine, and she, we started watching the movie, and she said, "Oh, what is this movie? Why this is black and white?" And she said, "Okay, there's no story. It's always people fighting, and it start with it's about the revolution, and some of the scenes were really, really disturbing, like some scenes of raping and what is this movie? I don't like this movie at all." And she said, "Okay, I'm going to have a nap. So when you finish, just let me know. I'm going to sleep a bit." And then I enjoyed that movie so much. And then I was thinking, why she didn't like this movie? I like it so much, and it's a award-winning movie, and people probably have spent a lot of energy, a lot of money, and the storyline was really nice. It's like a true story, so it's a perfect movie, and the cast were really nice. The acting was really good. The music and everything was perfect, and she didn't like it at all. And I was thinking, why it happened? Why we watch the same movie and the person sitting next to me is not enjoying this movie? This movie gives me so much pleasure, and why she's not enjoying this movie? And then it just that thought wasn't that I didn't understand really what really happened on that time. Why people, even you watching, sitting in front of the same telly, not enjoying the same thing. And since we think that movie gives me pleasure, and why it's not giving her pleasure, like why she's not enjoying it? So these were the questions and arises, and I didn't have any answers. And after that, the very nice thing said that what others says is happiness, the noble ones say is suffering. What others say is suffering, the noble one knows as happiness. So this bit is very mind-blowing thing for me, and it's the cracking thing, and it's like you learn something really. This is what were you looking for, and yeah, Buddha says something completely 180 degree. If you go in this way, the Buddha asks you to go the other way around, and you just go in the opposite direction. It's called Patisotagami. You're going the opposite direction. You're not going through on the current. You just swimming opposite direction on the current. And so this really struck me, and because at least Buddha is, so there's a validation for we're not indulging our senses, because Buddha says whatever you say is happiness, I say it's suffering. I say it's dukkha. And everybody says the desirable and precious things are not, once they are ceased, then you say it's suffering. But Buddha says no. The staying away from the desires is the happiness. And I don't think any of you agree. And do you have any different views on that? This is what Buddha says, and none of us going to agree about it. And at least I didn't agree on that time, but at least I thought, no, Buddha has said something completely opposite what we talk. And so still it didn't explain me the whole thing. So I had to read a lot of suttas to get the total understanding. Not the total understanding, I wouldn't say that then I would be an arahant if I had the total understanding, but at least to stay in the robe, at least to sacrifice, we wouldn't say sacrifice, but stay away from the desires, the pleasurable stuff, the likable stuff. So, but so before we go further, and do you have anything? Did you agree with that statement of the Buddha, or how do you feel about it? Any, maybe other people, since the audience might hear as well, since we are very close, and if you want, you can get close, and I think they would hear if you talk. Any opinion on that?
Maybe in the short term, it feels like I disagree. In the long term, yeah.
Okay.
If you have pizza in front of you and it's just cooked, then it gives pleasure immediately.
That's why you come in for the meditation rather than going for movie, isn't it? How about you guys?
I think.
So you're looking for a long-term happiness than the short-term happiness. So you're looking for happiness, basically, isn't it?
Maybe you eat too much pizza, you get fat, you have a heart attack, you get sick.
So you see the drawbacks.
Yeah.
The consequences of eating. Yeah, that's a very good simile actually. It's the sutta called what is sutta? But the example I'll try to, because I don't have the reference here. I might not use the right words. That's why I just wrote the proper translation. I might otherwise translate it into something else, since English is my first language. So I might completely give a different meaning. But this particular sutta, but it's a very good simile. But they talk about a fish. What do you call this? The fishing rod is always connected. What do you connect to the fishing rod to the catch a fish? What do you call it?
The line.
The line, and what is the other one? The hook. And what do you connect something?
Bait. Yes.
The bait.
Call it bait is the thing you put to attract the fish.
Attract the fish. That's the bait, right? So you put the bait, and the fish doesn't know there's the hook behind it, right? So the fish attracted to the bait, knowing, thinking it's very pleasurable. So somebody has feed me some nice food, right? So the consequences is deadly, isn't it? So the Buddha says they called asada. Asada, the word for asada in English is what? I might not find the right asada. Gratification. Yeah, the gratification. Yeah, you're going for the gratification, and the consequences behind it is terrible, and you always suffering. And but still, it doesn't explain the whole thing. It doesn't explain it as a theory. Now you can say, I mean, if you have this theory in your mind, at least every time you go behind something desirable, and at least you recall, or Buddha said, what we think is pleasurable is not making us, I mean, it's not pleasurable. It is giving us dukkha. It is giving us suffering. And at least you know that as a theory that Buddha says something complete opposite to what we think. And so the next sutta I'm going to share is called the Bhadrakagamini Sutta. It is also, okay, I'll read that bit. It's okay, isn't it? Like if I read if I refer yeah. At one time, the Buddha was staying in the land of the Mallas, near the Malian town called Urvelakappa. Then the Bhadraka, the village chief, went up to the Buddha, bowed, sat down to one side and said to him, "Please, teach me the origin and cessation of suffering. Teach me the origin and the cessation of suffering." And it is a question also quite funny. Don't you know the suffering? How could a person would know suffering, what suffering is? We all know about suffering, isn't it? So things all the desirable, likable, pleasurable things, if you get those things as the way we want, the sights we like to see, if you can see, whenever you want, you can go for a holiday, the movies, see the person you love. That's where the happiness brings you, isn't it? And even if you have to stay away from your loved ones, that brings you suffering. So nobody wants to explain about suffering, isn't it? And all the Sri Lankans right now, they know the Four Noble Truths very well, right? They know the suffering. There's no electricity, there's no gas, there's no rations, and they know the suffering. And also they know the cause of the suffering, which is the bad governance, right? And they know the cessation of the suffering too, and they're looking for a good governance, right? And also they know the way to cessation of sufferings. Send home the current president or the cabinet, send them home, bring new people. So that is Four Noble Truths for us, isn't it? So we have solutions for suffering. Send them home, bring the new people. You're satisfied with your husband? Divorce him, find another one. That's how you bring the happiness, isn't it? That's how you eradicate suffering. We know the Four Noble Truths, isn't it? We know the suffering, we know the cause, and we find the solutions for that, and then we implement it, isn't it? So any problem we solve that way, isn't it? So all the jobs, because we have the jobs because of other people's suffering, isn't it? And the suffering, they hand over to you, and they pay some money for, so you're being suffered, isn't it? Cleaning, nobody wants to do, isn't it? Nobody wants to do work in the kitchen in a very warm environment, isn't it? There are some jobs nobody wants to take. Caring, nobody wants to do those sort of jobs because the suffering give to someone else. So you take the suffering and we pay some money for that, isn't it? So that's how we understand the Four Noble Truths, isn't it? We have a suffering, and we have a solution for that too, and we exactly know the reason for suffering, the cause of suffering. And this problem is, the question, the way he asked is quite, and my question was when I read the first bit, why can't this man understand the suffering? You should know the suffering. If he's a chief of village, people might bring a lot of problems for him. And if he have wife and kids, of course he got enough suffering, right? And he have plenty of problems to sort out. You got to feed them, you got to look after them, you got to give them security, you got to earn money, and plenty of things. Okay, then he's asking, please teach me the origin and cessation of suffering. So the Buddha response is, this is how it was in the past. If I say this is how it was in the past, you might have doubts or uncertainties about it. If I were to teach you about the origin and ending of the suffering in the future, saying, this is how it will be in the future, you might have doubts or uncertainties about it. So if you refer the past, this is how the suffering appears, or suffering, this is its arises, the suffering. And I wouldn't believe it, and you wouldn't believe it. And if you refer the future, this is how it will come in the future. The suffering will be like this, and still the future is not here. And you might think, it might not be, it will go in my own way. The way I want it. So the Buddha say, rather, chief, I will teach you about the origin and end of suffering as I am sitting right here and you are sitting right there. Listen, I pay close attention, I'll speak. And the man says, yes, sir. So I'm going to ask the same questions from you. The Buddha asked that guy, right? So you coming from, so where you from? Which town? Where are you from?
From London, from Lewisham.
Lewisham, okay.
Southeast London.
Okay, Southeast London. Okay, I'll ask the same question from you, which the Buddha asked from the Bhadrakagamini, right? So, are there any people in Lewisham, right, who, if they were executed, imprisoned, fined, or condemned, it would be cause you sorrow, lamentation, pain, sadness, and distress? You get it, right? So, in Lewisham, do you have this sort of people? If something happens, like if they hit corona, if somebody condemned them, if somebody shouted at them, if they lose their iPhone, if they get sick, if somebody, your kid maybe argue with somebody, and your kid come with like a little wound from the school. So if something happened to them, like here it says, like they executed, imprisoned, fined, or condemned, it would cause you sorrow, lamentation, pain, sadness, and distress. They don't need to be executed and imprisoned or fined, and something really tiny thing happens, like even if they're late for 10-15 minutes, or if they have, the terrible thing is corona, so you're really scared, right? So if they come late, and if they, even they take less marks for mathematics, right? Something terrible happened to them, right? Even when you're ironing, your clothes is burnt, and your visa is burned when you're having a shower and you forgot to they take your feet out, and this is where suffering comes from, isn't it? So this says, so is there any people in Lewisham who, if they were executed, imprisoned, fined, or condemned, it would be cause you sorrow, lamentation, pain, sadness, and distress? So what is your answer? Yes, there are, sir, right? Oh, that's the next thing. But there are any people here in Lewisham who, if they were executed, imprisoned, fined, or condemned, it would not cause you sorrow, lamentation, pain, sadness, and distress? Are there that sort of people in Lewisham too? Like,
I don't know.
You don't really care about if you're, say, like the person about 3-4 houses away from your house, then you suddenly get a call, oh, the man passed away, he was in the hospital. I said, really? You're going to be really upset about it, and maybe 10 houses away from, and the whole Lewisham town center, somebody dies at this moment, or somebody get imprisoned, somebody executed, or had a tragic accident somewhere in the high road in Lewisham, somebody fined, so somebody get a parking ticket 10 houses away from you. Are you going to be upset about it?
Not a parking ticket, but execution probably.
Right. So, and the answer is like, the Bhadrakagamini's answer is yes, there are. And there are certain people, if something happened to them, like even a small thing, even like a little wound, and they're wounded, or even hit corona, or something, even tiny thing happened to them, if somebody like at the school, somebody shouted at the teacher, shouted at them, would you get upset? And you say yes, there are people, right? There are. So then he says, so what is the cause, chief? What's the reason why, if this was to happen to some people, it could cause you sorrow, while if it happens to the others, it doesn't? And the Buddha asking this question, you feel sorrow, lamentation, and distress only for certain people. So if something happened to certain people, like if they get imprisoned or executed, even the small thing, very, very tiny thing, somebody shouted at your husband or wife, your partner or your kids, you'll be really upset. Oh, why did they do this to my son? Why these people giving me, my husband, this sort of work, and Why don't give them some light work, and why then keep them asking to give like difficult targets for my husband, my partner, isn't it? So you get upset. So you don't care. The next door person might have 10 times harder job, and you don't really bother about him. Your husband and the next door person might be working the same office, your partner, right? He might have gone through the similar sort of workplace like problems, say like a bullying, not bullying actually, maybe too much workload, too much pressure, higher targets, so it makes you distressed. And which one makes you sorrow? Your husband's one, isn't it? You don't really bother about. You think, oh, he'll be all right, and his wife will bother about it. I don't need to bother about the whole world. I just look after my family. And so the Buddha says, what is the cause, chief? What's the reason why? If this was to happen to some people, it could cause you sorrow, while if it happens to others, it doesn't. The people regarding whom this world gives rise to sorrow are those I desire and love. Right? The people regarding whom this would give rise to sorrow are those I desire and love. It can be a person, or it can be something physical thing like your car or your phone or your house, right? Something yours, your kids, your dog, yeah, your cat, something mine. And the people regarding whom this would not give rise to sorrow are those I don't desire and love. Right? So then the Buddha explains further. With this present phenomena that is seen, known, immediate, attained, and fathomed, you may infer to the past and future. All the suffering that arose in the past was rooted and sourced in desire. For desire is the root of suffering. All the suffering that will arise in the future will be rooted and sourced in desire. For desire is the root of suffering. And the man says, it is incredible, sir. It is amazing. How well said and was by the Buddha. All suffering that arises is rooted and sourced in desire. For desire is the root of suffering. And then it goes further down. And he explains then, I have a boy called Chirvasi who resides in a house away from here. I rise early and send someone saying, go my man, and check my boy Chirvasi. Until they get back, I worry. And he explains his service. I hope nothing wrong with Chirvasi. What do you think, Chief? If Chirvasi was executed, and he says the same thing, imprisoned and condemned, I mean, a lot of repetitions in these suttas, but I think it's for a reason. It's called lamentation, pain, sadness, and distress. How could it not, sir? That's asking. If something, he's asking you, if something happened to your own son, if the Chirvasi was executed, get corona, get fined, or condemned, or get wounded, and even getting low salary, and not having enough tasty food, right? So problem from work, like stress from work. So that will really give you, cause you sorrow, lamentation, pain, and sadness, and distress. And the man asking, how could it not, sir? Right? This is too is way to understand. All the suffering that arises is rooted and sourced in desire. For desire is the root of suffering. What do you think, Chief? So I can ask, what do you think? What do you all think? Is this coming from elsewhere? Is this coming from somebody you completely don't know at all? Somebody who you have never met? Or even the next door person? Or maybe the person about 3-4 houses away from you? So would they bring you suffering? So just everybody in where was it? The place? Lucian. So would it give you suffering? So how many people died in England during the corona pandemic?
How many thousands? It's quite a
About
lot.
140,000. About 140,000.
140,000.
140,000.
So if you really worried about all these people, you have to cry probably every day. You'll be lamentated and you'll be still be sorrowed. But if there's something close to you, something related to you, what would have been the reaction? So this morning I got a call from my brother from Sri Lanka, and he said my cousin passed away, and she's 50, and then I can't attend the funeral, and we were she was like a friend to me, and every time I go to Sri Lanka I spend a couple of days as a layperson. And when I went to Sri Lanka I spent a couple of days with her, share some food, and the next time I go she won't be there. And even
sorry to hear that.
So, but it doesn't affect me as much as her own children. And so how do they feel right now? And they lost their mom, and they're still quite young girls. She got 2 girls, and they study. And why don't we get that suffering, and why only them get suffering now?
They're closer to their mother than we are.
So the suffering coming from where? From your loved ones, isn't it? So we don't need to talk about the next life, or we don't need to refer the future or the past, right? So the 2 points we talk about this afternoon was, one thing is Buddha's teaching is the suffering Buddha says is completely opposite to what we think suffering is. That is like 180 degrees difference, isn't it? We say this is suffering, the Buddha says no, this is not suffering. What you think is pleasurable is suffering. And in this sutta, the Buddha says the whole suffering that arises is rooted and sourced in desire. If there's no desire, if there's no love, it's a boring life. If you don't love somebody, if you don't have loved ones, if you don't have a partner, if you don't have kids, if you don't have a nice house, if you don't have a nice car, you don't have enough food that you really like to enjoy, you can't go for a holiday, it's suffering. Oh, it's not suffering now. So since you have no desire, so that's why monks become homeless people and they leave everybody behind. All right, even your father, mother, your brothers, they are alive, but you can't get them to get closer as you want now, isn't it? So what's the time now? 19:29. So it's about an hour, isn't it? So we'll talk about an hour now, right? So we'll just wait a bit more and try to get more insight about it. I mean, these are the 2 points. If you take one thing home or 2 things from this talk, you have to take 2 things and contemplating on this. One thing is the suffering we think as suffering is not the suffering, the pleasure. The Buddha is talking something completely opposite. Every time you feel something, attracted to something, and you think, oh no, Buddha said something else, right? So I think, oh, this is going to mean a lot of happiness next holiday. So in the summer you might go to Greece and go Rhodes Islands or somewhere else, or maybe to Sri Lanka, Good. It's a good holiday. A barbecue. A dance with friends. What do you call it? Any sort of Latin dance or something. Something you like to do. And we think, oh, this is really fascinating. I'm enjoying my life to bits. So there's no suffering, isn't it? There are very good moments. Did you feel like you're suffering today? The whole day? Did you miss anything you wanted to do? Like, did you miss your favorite food? No? Did you miss something you really wanted to see and you couldn't? Did you miss your loved ones? By the time you go home, they will be there. Right? And so you have been suffering. And maybe some physical discomfort since you are sitting for an hour. Right? So that's why you have to move your limbs, like you have to change your posture.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
A human organism or an animal, we have to get hungry, smell some food, get hungry, move towards the food. The desire keeps us alive, and to reproduce as well. Sexual desire means we have babies, and life goes on. And so the desire for thirst and hunger, it's a good thing to have, so we don't get sick, we don't dehydrate and get
no, whether you desire it or not, it's going to happen, isn't it? So
in one way it's good.
I mean that is about it's called Dhamma. So these things are, whether you like or not, you're going to get hungry, you're going to go to the toilet, right? So whether you like or not, these things happen. This is a natural thing for any living being, right? So what's the word you said? Reproduction, right? Those things happen in animal kingdom. So they need food, they need sleep. There are some requirements for all the beings, right? All of us need food. Even the devas need a sort of food, like they said, piti bakka bhavisya. They use the happiness or something. So even the food appears for devas whenever they need it, right? Then there are 31 different planes, and we can see only 2 of them. We can see the human plane, and we can see the animal plane. I don't know any of you seen goats or ghosts. Have anybody seen? No. So we can see only 2 realms, isn't it? But there are 31 different planes. I haven't seen. I can't remember my past. I don't know what will happen in the future. But the Buddha's explanation is about the lamentation, sorrow coming right now. So you need to refer the future, and it's even Buddha says, I'm not going to refer the future or the past. So I'm just going to tell you how the suffering comes right here, right now. And then it goes for, if Tirunava's mother was executed, imprisoned, fined, condemned, would it cause you sorrow, lamentation, pain, sadness, and distress? How could it not, sir? This too is a way to understand. All the suffering that arises is rooted and sourced in desire. The desire is the root of suffering. So this is a sutta called Bhadrakagamini. So you can find it on the internet. There's a very good site called Sutta Central, and I think it's almost more than 50% being translated to. They refer the Pali Canon, and then the translation, and even you can find translation in different other languages like Spanish and French, and it's a very good website. So you need to take all these kind of bookshelves now. So you can bring your Tripitaka is probably 3-4 shelf of this huge 50 plus books, 57 or something. And but now you can take in your palm all the suttas, all the teachings readily available, and you can read in different languages. So these 2 suttas actually give me a lot of insight. The first sutta is talk about the Dharavasana. It says, what other says is happiness, the noble one says is suffering. And what other says is suffering, the noble one knows as happiness. So what are we supposed to do now? To become a noble one, or just pursue the things as we used to do? If you take two things from this evening, I would like to, if I could, I will share the stanzas and the suttas. That little bit. If others say is happiness, what others say is happiness, the noble one say is suffering. What others say is suffering, the noble one know as happiness. If you don't, I would say no, if you don't know this bit, and if you've never heard of this bit, and what are we going to contemplate? To eradicate suffering. So we're looking for eradication of suffering, and that's why we do a lot of meditation and sitting for hours and hours, and any sort of meditation. I mean, you can go for any different practices and different teachers and different traditions. So I think this little sutta is a very, this one is called Logmusta, but the other one, Bhadrakagamini, is a very tiny sutta. And the questions are like, it's a conversation between just you and me. The Buddha asks questions and the man answers. So I mean, the Buddha's discourses are conversations anyway. And Buddha doesn't, ask them to, okay, now observe 10 precepts and sit down, and because the context of the society down at those days is quite completely different. All these people I heard that about 62 different belief systems, and the Brahmins, and there's somebody coming with the ochre robe, and he's a smart person. He's from a very wealthy family, very smart, very intelligent, but still, when he goes and try to teach somebody, and they wouldn't listen to him. Why should they listen to Buddha? Right? And there are plenty of other beliefs, and Buddha just goes, and if even right now, if Buddha appears in High Street, who is going to listen to Buddha now? If you find Buddha in Victoria Station, do you think that people are going to listen to him? No. Is it? There'll be someone like anyway, and even if they say, I'm Buddha, I'm Lord Buddha, and are we going to listen to him? Okay, Buddha, we're going home now. It's 7:30 now, and we are late. We got to go home, isn't it? Maybe if I find you some other day, maybe you can teach me something nice. We heard about you. We have read a couple of books. Yeah, and we've done some bit of meditation in different traditions. Hey, Buddha, yeah, I think we're doing all right. Isn't it? So we'll see you later if you get a chance. Isn't it? I will maybe share the phone number. And if you get some time, give me a call, Buddha. Isn't it? Right, so these little suttas kept me in the robe so far. And so do you have any questions? I don't know whether we should allow the audience. So if you like to ask any questions, I'm talking to the people who is joining on internet from Zoom. So you can ask any questions, not very difficult questions, something if you ask difficult questions, I refer to my head monk and get the answers from next week. But so if somebody like to ask questions, you can raise your hand, and we are happy to. We got some very senior meditators here too, so maybe someone else here could answer the questions too, isn't it? Wendy is a teacher from Lavinia. All right. So how about you guys? Any opinions? Any, not particularly questions, any like your ideas, your thoughts about how to eradicate suffering? How about you, sir? Right. So the reason for suffering now we understand is the desire, and the desire and the loved ones gives us suffering than anyone else, isn't it? So if chat, I think nobody's. Yeah. So we'll carry on. So if anybody wants to ask questions, please raise your hands. So while somebody just raise a question, we'll talk a bit more. And so we'll try to elaborate a bit more about. So this suffering now we now know the suffering coming from your loved ones. So desire for something, love for something gives you suffering. And the only way to eradicate suffering is eradicate the desire. I mean, practically you might say, how can I do that? That's the question. The first question is, what am I going to do with my loved ones now? Am I supposed to become a monk, or am I supposed to leave them? So you think that I can't bring my kids to my room, so should I keep them in a different room? So these are the questions people ask for me. I have a pet, so I'm going to do with this pet now. I have a dog, I have a cat, I have a partner, I have a car, I have a house. So do you think that I should leave everything behind? Should I live in the road and become homeless? And shouldn't I'm not supposed to do makeups and do hairstyles? So these are the questions coming to your mind, isn't it? Like, what I'm supposed to do? What are you really supposed to do to eradicate desire? Any idea? So we practice something. You have to do something to eradicate suffering, or you have to do nothing about just know it and then forget it. Oh yeah, Buddha said this, but I'm going to do the same thing. So any opinions?
Perhaps you could give us a guided meditation, because it's 20 to 8. So.
Right. So we'll go for a bit of guided meditation now. But I know you have been meditating for so long, and I normally I know that lots of you guys are quite experienced in breath meditation, and also loving kindness meditation, and some of them may have done the insight meditation, right? So for today we'll try to do a bit of metta meditation, which is one of my favorite. And I normally use the Metta Sutta as a guide, and I wouldn't give you exact wordings for that, but we'll go through it's only 10 stanzas for Metta meditation, Metta Sutta. So we go through the stanzas, and we'll work out what we have to do a meditation. And I know that we are using particular phrases for meditation, but I will let you make your own phrases the way you want it. So we'll go through quickly. It's about 5 minutes reading. So I wouldn't go for the Metta Sutra on Pali, but I give you the explanation. It says, it starts with Karniya Matta Kusalena Yantan Santam Padang Amisamecce Sapko Juchasu Chucha Sucho Chasamudvanitimani. But rather than going for the sutta, I'll go for the explanation. He who is skilled in working out his own well-being and who wishes to attain the state of calm, Nibbana, should act thus. He should be dexterous, upright, exceedingly upright, obedient, gentle, and humble. Contented, easily supported, with but few responsibilities. Of simple livelihood, controlled in the senses, prudent, courteous, and not hanker after association with families. Let him not perform the slightest wrong for which wise men may rebuke him. May all beings be happy and safe. May they have happy minds. Whatever the living beings there may be, feeble or strong, long, stout, or of medium size, short or small, large, those seen or those unseen, whose dwelling far or near, those who are born as well as those yet to be born. May all beings have happy minds. Let him not deceive another, nor despair, nor despise anyone, anywhere. In anger or ill will, let him not wish another ill. Just as a mother would protect her only child with her life, even so let one cultivate a boundless love towards all beings. Let him radiate boundless love towards the entire world, above, below, and across, unhindered, without ill will, without enmity. Standing, walking, sitting, or reclining, as long as he is awake, let him develop this mindfulness. This, they say, is noble living. Not falling onto wrong views, being virtuous, endowed with insight, lust in the sense discarded. Verily, never again will he return to conceive in a womb. I think you've gone past the time though. You realized I'm sitting for. Right, I don't think we have time to get questions, isn't it? So we just share the merit with devas and the departed ones. So we have accrued a lot of wholesome karma. And the thing is, your mind was not filled with lust, and there's no aversion towards anybody, and we get some insight, and the mind disillusioned. So during these 1.5 hours, we kept our mind without any desire for anything particular, and there was no aversion for anybody, and get a bit of wisdom. So we accrue a lot of merits, good karma, pure thoughts. We realize the reality, the Dhamma, Buddha's teaching. So by listening to the talk and also do the meditation for a while, loving kindness meditation, for the whole world, for yourself, your family, your loved ones, the people you work with, the whole world, as the mother protect her own child. Right? So we spread the loving kindness to the whole world, and with that we accrue a lot of good karma. And so we'll just quickly share the merits with Deva and we'll wind up the session. Ittavata cha ammehi sampatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ittavata cha ammehi sampatang punya sampadang sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ittavata cha ammehi sampatang punya sampadang sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Also we share the merits with the departed ones, the people who are really close to you, hasn't been with us anymore, and may all share these merits and all the merits we accrued with meritorious deeds. May all be happy, peaceful, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Idam me jnatinang hotu sukhita hontu jnatayo. Idam me jnatinang hotu sukhita hontu jnatayo. Idam vo jnatinang hotu sukhita hontu jnatayo. May all of us be peace, happy, and all the merits we accrued today will help us to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Imina punya kammena mame bala samagamo satan samagamo hotu yava nibbana pattiya. Imina punya kammena mame bala samagamo satan samagamo hotu yava nibbana pattiya. Imina punya kammena mame bala samagamo satan samagamo hotu yava nibbana pattiya. Idam me punya kammang asavakkaya vahan hotu sabba dukkha pamucchatu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So from now that we wind up the session, so thank you so much for having me this afternoon. Thank you very much for the Buddhist Society and the President and General Secretary Odin, Lavinia, and everybody who helped to deliver this session. So all the merits will be shared with you, and may all have peace, happiness, and supreme bliss of Nibbana. Dharavasana.
Thank you.